All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dive into the stories of some of history's most brilliant and, most overlooked military minds.
So, when I say military genius, who pops into your head? A few names probably spring to mind right away, don't they? These towering figures who really did change the course of history.
Of course they did. These guys shaped entire empires and their household names for a very good reason. We still study their victories, their strategies, even now. But history is so much bigger than just a handful of famous names, right?
And that's exactly what we're here to explore. We're going to look past that usual list of suspects and uncover some of the absolute greatest commanders from one single, enduring empire, Persia.
So, let's kick things off way back in antiquity. We're talking legendary empires, iconic battles, a time when commanders were up against these larger-than-life opponents. The choice was simple: innovate or get crushed.
Oh, okay, so our first commander is a guy named Harpagus. Now, he served under the legendary Cyrus the Great, and he was staring down the barrel of the powerful Lydian army. And these guys, they were famous for their cavalry. It was seen as pretty much invincible.
Harpagus took one look at this situation and knew a straightforward, conventional fight, not going to happen. So what did he do? He completely changed the rules of the game. He literally took the camels from his army's baggage train, the supply animals, and stuck them right on the front lines. The Lydian horses had never seen or smelled anything like them. They absolutely freaked out. Their legendary charge just shattered. And just like that, Harpagus turned their greatest strength into their biggest weakness. Brilliant.
All right, next up, let's talk about Sharena. He was a Parthian general, and he had to face off against one of Rome's most powerful men, a guy named Crassus. And this was at a time when the Roman legions, they just seemed totally unstoppable.
So, at the Battle of Carrhae, Sharena didn't just meet the Roman legions head-on. No way! Instead, he pioneered this whole new style of fighting that's now known as, you guessed it, Parthian warfare. Imagine this. His horse archers would pretend to run away, right? They'd lure the disciplined Romans into a chase, and then, in this just incredible display of skill, they'd turn right around in their saddles and just shower the pursuing enemy with arrows. It's such a perfect example of how pure tactical genius can completely dismantle a bigger, more disciplined army.
Okay, let's move forward a bit to two figures who became these absolute symbols of resistance. They were facing down one of history's most famous conquerors right at the very gates of their homeland.
So when Alexander the Great himself marched on the heart of the Persian Empire, a general named Ariobarzanes stood in his way. And you have to understand, the odds were just staggering. You've got Alexander's massive, battle-hardened army on one side, and on the other, a tiny little force of just 40 horsemen and 5,000 infantry, trying to defend a narrow mountain pass.
And get this, for a whole month, they actually held Alexander's army at bay, but they were betrayed. A local shepherd showed Alexander a secret path to get around and surround them, but even then, facing certain death, Ariobarzanes and his men, they refused to surrender. They charged straight into the Macedonian lines and fought to the very last man to defend their home.
But what makes this story even more incredible, truly, is that Ariobarzanes wasn't fighting alone. That last stand, it was a shared battlefield. See, his sister, Utab, whose name, by the way, means shining and peerless, which is just perfect, was also a commander in this battle. She led her own troops, she fought, and she died right there alongside her brother and their soldiers. It's a truly remarkable and way too often overlooked part of this whole story of defiance.
All right, let's jump ahead to the Sasanian era. Here, we find another general who's up against the challenge that was, just about impossible, and it demanded a completely different kind of brilliance.
So General Bahram Chobin gets this assignment: stop an invasion force of 300,000 soldiers and war elephants. Look at this. It's a completely insane mismatch. But instead of even trying to match their numbers, what does he do? He decides to face them with only 12,000 men. And his solution wasn't just about courage. Oh no, it was cold, hard strategy. He handpicked his entire force based on really specific criteria: their age, their experience, their physical fitness, even their proven patriotism. You see, he wasn't just building an army, he was basically creating a surgical instrument. Then he armed them with some new, innovative weapons that used crude oil. And in a single day, he absolutely crushed that massive invading army.
Okay, for our last story, let's really jump forward all the way to the 19th century.
And here, the challenge wasn't just a single battle, it was an entire technological gap. A chasm, really, between a traditional empire and the modern armies of Europe.
So Crown Prince Abbas Mirza is commanding the Persian forces during the Russo-Persian Wars, and he has this really painful realization. He sees that the traditional tribal armies, no matter how brave they just were no match for modern European artillery and guns.
He knew, deep down, that Persia had to change, or it was going to be conquered. So, he kicked off this sweeping program to modernize the military from the ground up. He created a professional standing army, with regular pay and uniforms. He built factories to make modern cannons and rifles. He even had European military manuals translated. And maybe most importantly, he sent the first Iranian students to Europe to study military science and technology. He wasn't just fixing a problem, he was building an army for the future.
So when you look back at all these stories, from Harpagus and his crazy camel tactic, all the way to Abbas Mirza and his modernization program, what's the common thread? What do they all have in common?
Well, when you really get down to it, their greatness wasn't just about winning battles. It was about seeing the world differently than everyone else. It was about innovating when you're facing a stronger opponent. It was about sacrifice when the odds seemed impossible. And it was about having the foresight, the vision, to understand that the old ways just weren't going to be enough to secure the future.
And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? History is just filled with these brilliant minds whose stories get completely overshadowed by the more famous names. Their victories might not be in every textbook, but their genius, that's no less real. It really makes you wonder, what other legends are out there, just waiting for us to rediscover them?